conversation. Someone has been alleging for years now that you, one of the largest commentary creators on YouTube, knowingly committed a crime against her when she was a minor. But YouTubers and viewers alike are ignoring and discrediting these allegations solely because the person making them happens to be an unlikable woman online, Tana Mongeau. And you know that people are ignoring.
Mojo? Is that how you say her last name? I had no idea. Have you considered watching the latest Connor O'Malley video? I don't know who that is or what that is. MRD, thank you for the 3 months. This is no disrespect to Angelo Wallace. I love his videos, but I had to take his video for other YouTubers coming out of the woodworks to talk about the Cody Ko situation, how serious it is when a few of the other YouTubers had done it before D'Angelo. Okay, we can talk about that. Let's watch this though. Okay, wait, who's Connor? Is Connor O'Malley, is he another YouTuber who made a video on this?
This because nobody is working harder to bury this story than you, and you're getting away with it because commentary YouTube.
Okay,
let's have an uncomfortable conversation.
Let's start all over.
Someone has been alleging for years now that you, one of the largest commentary creators on YouTube, knowingly committed a crime against her when she was a minor. But YouTubers and viewers alike are ignoring and discrediting these allegations solely because the person making them happens to be an unlikable woman online, Tana Mongeau. And you know that people are ignoring this because nobody is working harder to bury this story than you. And you're getting away with it because commentary YouTube has a serious problem.
Okay.
I can't blame any of your viewers or my viewers for not hearing about this because you've done such a good job hiding it up until now that I only found out about it recently. The situation has been talked about by smaller channels, it's been discussed at length on other platforms, and it keeps almost hitting the mainstream, like with this Rolling Stone article or this H3 podcast discussion. But the reason it hasn't caught on yet, despite all of this, is that none of your friends, nobody on your level, nobody in the commentary niche with enough pull is willing to admit that this situation makes you look terrible.
A lot of people like him a lot, and they're
okay. So this isn't just about bringing attention to what Cody Ko did and to talk about that, but this is about calling out big commentary YouTubers who purposefully have not commented on this.
They really are like doing any kind of mental gymnastic to just ignore it.
I'm not here to accuse you of committing a crime in this video because I can't do that based on someone else's allegations. Nobody can definitively take these allegations as proof, but at the same time, they should still be looked at and not treated as an open secret and swept under the rug like you've been doing for so many years now. And from the way the situation keeps popping up more and more often, it's clear that there's only so much rug sweeping you can do before people start taking a closer look at things. So let's take a closer look. We both know that Tana Mongeau is a YouTube personality with a history of lies, controversy, and genuinely problematic behavior that's become so entangled with her brand that her podcast is called Cancelled with Tana Mongeau. And speaking of this podcast, about a month ago, she hosted a live episode in front of an audience, and the conversation turned to you.
Who's the smallest you've ever had sex with?
Oh my God, no one look at me, Cody Ko. I can say that. I was literally 17, I can say that.
This clip started making the rounds and people were understandably perturbed because if Tana Mongeau was 17, you would have been 25. So people started speculating and Tana decided to set the record straight.
I hooked up with Cody Ko when I was 17 and he was 25.
She claims that not only were you fully
I'm just going to say, like, I know I'm not the most tuned in person on the internet, especially when it comes to like content creator stuff. I mean, for God's sakes, I'm just now watching the H-Bomber video and have no idea who any of those people are. But I am pretty surprised that I never saw any of this. I didn't see any. I didn't know about any of this until this week when people started talking about the D'Angelo video, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna watch this, see what's going on." But truly, hadn't seen anything from that live canceled episode or from the follow-up podcast episode, and hadn't seen anyone talking about it.
aware of her age at the time, but someone even tried to stop you and you went ahead anyway.
There was a situation with Gabby Hanna at a Playlist Live where she pulled him aside and told him like, yo, she's 17. And then we still went and hooked up.
To be clear, 17 is under the age of consent in many states, including Florida, where Playlist Live used to take place. So this means that Tana Mongeau is accusing you of statutory rape, and she's not trying to hide that.
This isn't just some crazy tea. It was a crime.
Nothing would make this situation better, but plenty of things make it worse, like the fact that she was a fan of yours at the time, adding an additional layer to the power dynamic you would have had over her.
I grew up loving him, and I think you know what I mean? Like, I was just like excited and a fan.
Tana seems to have many feelings about this, which we'll go over a bit later, but she stated very clearly that the actions she's accusing you of are inexcusable.
If I had a 17-year-old daughter or a little sister or something, like, I would kill.
I would never let it fly.
These recent allegations are bad enough on their own, but there are a couple of things that make them worse still. Things that many people don't know yet, but you do. You know that Tana has been making this same specific claim against you for years now. Here she is back in 2021 saying the same thing.
I was 17 at the time, 18. I started kind of hooking up with other people. Shout out JC Kalen, shout out Cody Ko.
But what lends the most credibility to Tana's claims, and what is really the most damning thing for you, Cody, is a clip that you might not have even seen yet. See, I read the Rolling Stone article, I watched the YouTube videos about this, and they all missed something. And I understand why. The clip I'm about to show you is extremely hard to find. The original has been lost to time, and it's a wonder we have this on video at all. But if there was anything to give me any more clarity about these allegations before I formed my opinion, I was going to find it. Remember how Tana said that fellow YouTuber Gabby Hanna tried to stop you before everything allegedly went down? Well, did you know that Gabby is actually on record telling the exact same story several years ago?
One time, I told a guy, I saw him making out with a girl at a party who was underage, and I pulled him aside and I was like, hey man, you probably don't know, I know she like looks a little older, she's underage, watch it. And he was like, oh my God, thank you for telling me. And then he turned that.
This is really bad. People make accusations all the time, specifically regarding things that are very difficult to prove or disprove, unfortunate as that may be.
Also, just so we're clear, I'm trying not to pause and discourse, and I know people are chatting things. I know people have already seen this. I know people have like their opinions, whatever. But I think this is a video where like we just need to watch the video, see the, you know, see what D'Angelo has uncovered, like the evidence pointing to these allegations.
But when somebody makes an allegation and they say they have a witness, and that witness can be found telling the exact same story years before any of this came out, that's not something I can just ignore. In a situation that cannot be proven, corroboration by a third party goes a long way. And frankly, Cody, the allegations against you seem to have been corroborated. But instead of researching to find these answers like I did, many of your fans seem far more interested in attacking your accuser.
I have seen so many comments, but what was she wearing?
It's Tana, so who
God.
cares?
Well, it's Tana Mongeau.
The reaction to this has been unsurprising but incredibly disappointing, demanding proof that they know she can't provide, acting like she's only doing this to gain clout or ruin you somehow, despite the fact that she's never once put your name in a video title over this. Or worst of all, implying that a 17-year-old could have truly consented to any of this. But let's be clear about one thing. That is not the case. No amount of retroactive age calculations or what-if scenarios change the fact that what Tana described would be, objectively speaking, a crime. A crime which you've said absolutely nothing about. And even if this wasn't illegal, you remember being 25. You would have known then, as I currently know at age 25, that nobody this age should need an explanation for why a 17-year-old is off limits. Because you remember being 17 too. Now, thankfully, Tana's personal experience with this isn't one of trauma. In fact, I've seen people defending you by saying, Tana said she doesn't care, so why should any of us care? But that's not exactly what she was saying.
I don't associate or hold it with trauma because I am such a comparative person where I'm like, so many worse things have happened to me.
And even if something isn't consciously...
That is heartbreaking. Like, that is a sad reality for women where it's like, well, I wasn't, you know, even though like per the law, that is statutory rape. Like in my mind, because I consented to it, even though, you know, power dynamics, etc. Like we talked all the time about consent. But it's like not as bad as when I've been forced against my will. Like that's what she's insinuating there. Where she's like, I feel as if I consented to it, you know, versus it being like violent rape or something. Like God.
Internalized as an identifiable source of trauma, the body keeps the score.
Yeah, I wasn't
I know
raped.
Things manifest in ways other than me directly feeling them. Like maybe I don't feel traumatized in certain aspects from certain things, and other things I do. But, you know, maybe they just manifest in ways other than directly feeling.
The answer to why any of us should care is that a person has tried to come forward about her experience and has been met with the most vitriolic victim blaming I've seen in years. She's been dismissed, discredited, and disbelieved before anybody ever gave her a chance. Because it's Tana, which sets a horrible precedent that if a person runs out of goodwill, they lose the right to come forward with their experiences.
The most traumatizing thing of all of this really was seeing how many people like don't believe people or don't believe me. I feel so bad for all of these young girls because then they see that and then it makes them not want to come forward.
And you, Cody, are part of the reason she's been met with this reaction. Your status as one of YouTube's golden boys has made it possible for you to ignore a situation that almost anyone else would have had to respond to by now.
I know for a fact if you swapped out Cody Ko with someone that like people didn't like that much, I would be receiving so much more sympathy.
I find your silence on the situation to be uncomfortable because I know that if Tana's allegations are true, then silence would be your only option, since telling the truth would be tantamount to confessing to a crime, and lying would put you at risk of being contradicted by a witness. And like I told you at the beginning, I'm not accusing you of committing a crime, but even if what Tana says is false, your silence is still grossly incompetent at best. Why are you choosing the path that would be your only option if you were guilty? Now, some seem to think that you're not obligated to speak up, and maybe that's what people around you are telling you as well. But from one creator to another, you absolutely have an obligation to, at the very least, call out the misogyny, the victim blaming, and all manner of cognitive dissonance that's coming from your audience in the name of defending you against allegations that you're too cowardly to address. And to be clear, this is cowardice, because you demonstrate it whenever there's controversy afoot. Tana's further claims make it sound like you're terrified.
I said something about it online and it was starting to surface, and he texted me like, are we good? And was like, I said, yeah. And like, he was like, my wedding's coming up.
My
you do have
God.
a history of
He just got married. He just got fucking married and reached out to her to be like, it sounds as if he's going, hey, I don't want to fuck up my wedding. Like, we're good, as in nothing further is going to come from this, right? Because what Tana is maintaining is that she's like, look, I'm good. I'm okay. This happened to me, but I'm, you know, it's different than like Tana coming forward to say, I have to tell my story of when I was preyed upon, when I was sexually assaulted, when, you know, the way that female victims, when they come forward against content creators, usually how they have framed their coming forward, where it's this like very serious thing. Even though this is a serious thing, Tana's trying to maintain that, like, I am not looking to, I'm not taking legal action here. I'm not looking for anything to happen to him. This is just, this is just what happened. So him texting her that, making it seem as if I want to make sure that this is it, that like nothing else comes from this. Because I'm getting married and he has a baby.
Making bad choices when you're terrified of people finding things out, like your history of using slurs.
5 nigga 6 nigga 7 nigga 8 nigga 9 nigga.
There's more clips than that, but the reason most people are blissfully unaware of them is because you posted your vague apology not on Twitter, not on YouTube, but on Patreon, despite acknowledging in your apology that the clips were surfacing on Twitter. This is one of many examples of your poor handling of controversy. Not many people know that you've already lost fans over an eerily similar topic. You used to frequently feature and promote your college friend Colby Leachman in your videos, until it came out that during your school days, Leachman's university put him on probation for, as a United States District Judge would later put it, the non-consensual videotaping of a sex act with another student, showing the video to other people, lying to the police about the video, and behaving horribly to that individual and at least one other woman. To make matters worse, the woman in the video also alleged that Leachman drugged her before the recording and that she hadn't actually consented to anything at all. You had this man in your videos. You were telling us to follow him on Instagram, and at some point you did wise up, so he's no longer part of your content, but he still seems like he's very much a part of your friend group. From the continued hangout since then to inviting him to your wedding just last year, people are under the impression that you're best friends with someone who, at best, committed an illegal sex act and at worst is an alleged rapist. And no matter how many times people rediscover this information over the years,
look, it's one thing if you're friends with someone and then shit comes out, okay? You won't be judged for having had a relationship with that person, be it business, personal, etc. But continuing to work with them, continuing to like publicly show that you're still besties is not a good look when you yourself now are facing allegations.
you refuse to say anything at all. You could clarify this, but you won't. But now your cowardice has reached a new low. You've tried speaking and you've tried silence, and now you're choosing censorship. On your YouTube channel, where you've been pumping out content nearly every day now, I couldn't find a single comment on your last video about this situation. Not even one. Comparing that to the comment section on your Instagram, where every single comment I saw was about this, it's clear that you're heavily censoring your audience on YouTube. But surely you must have realized the limits by now, since people have just transferred the conversation over to your wife's channel. The fact that her comment section is overrun due to your decision to stay silent about this should be all the proof you need that that decision was wrong. At this point, your silence and censorship are a response with disturbing implications. The only thing that I've seen this hidden portion of your audience asking for is the truth. So why aren't you telling it? And your silence isn't the only one that's bothering me either.
All these Reddit threads, like if my name's on any thread, it's all getting deleted.
I witnessed the heavy-handed moderation of your subreddit in real time as I researched this video. I would refresh the page and posts would suddenly be unapproved by moderators after racking up hundreds of comments, removed because they could, quote, instigate drama, or more commonly just locked and or removed with no reason given whatsoever. I'm sure whoever is doing this thinks they're helping you, but you should probably tell them that they're making things look 10 times worse. But it's not just your moderators, it's your friends and fellow YouTubers too. It's no coincidence that with the exception of the H3 podcast, I haven't seen a single channel over 1 million subscribers do so much as acknowledge that this situation exists. And I'm not talking about channels that never would have discussed something like this either. I mean the same channels that were rightfully calling out people like Dr. Disrespect for texting a minor, which are the same channels that are now completely ignoring a scenario with an even bigger creator being accused of doing something much worse. You can't say it's because the allegations are unconfirmed, because the channels that I'm talking about discuss rumors all the time. And this video is all the proof you need that there's still plenty to discuss even without making definitive statements. The general public may not know about the situation, but I promise you, anyone who's online enough to run a YouTube channel does.
The amount of people in this industry who like want to protect him and are like talking to me in a way where it's like they, you know what I mean? Like, or even just friends like, but I love him.
The community's silence on this has been so staggering that people are now saying that commentary YouTube is a boys club, aka a male-dominated space that mistreats women while enabling and protecting men. And the truth is, Cody, whether you're guilty or not, you are being enabled to ignore this and protected from having to respond as an act of misogyny towards Tana Mongeau. We both know that on our side of commentary YouTube, any man can easily elevate himself by dunking on misogynists in his content and espousing a generally feminist viewpoint. But if that viewpoint turns to silence the moment a situation is no longer cut and dry, then that viewpoint was a brand strategy, not a belief. The misogyny that we should be discussing is right here in the community. Yet the only thing I'm hearing is a bitter, hollow silence.
Yeah, that's spot on. Spot on. It's a brand strategy that it's business, you know? It's the same thing as people who use their platforms to advocate for Ukrainians, to advocate for things like, you know, women's rights, Women March, Black Lives Matter, et cetera, but then nothing on Palestinians. Nothing. Where, oh, you've used your platform that way, though, for a multitude of other political issues, of other social issues, and yet when it comes to Palestine, deadly silent. And that's when it's clear, oh, this is about the brand. This is about what's safe. And we're at a point where if you're a celebrity, if you're a content creator, being Black Lives Matter, being pro LGBTQ women, like that is safe from like a liberal point of view. You know, you will not, like, of course you're gonna piss off like conservatives, but that's not who the bulk of your audience is. But when you get into topics that liberals disagree with, like advocating for Palestinians, then that's where the silence comes. That's where, oh, I don't want to get risky here.
Silence. One that you have the power to end. I said it in the beginning, I said it in the middle, and I'll end with this. One person's testimony does not give me the right to accuse you of doing anything illegal, but I can point out the facts. It's a fact that you and Tana were around each other during the years she specified, as seen in your uncomfortable collab videos, which are still online. It's a fact that Gabby Hanna has made claims that seem to corroborate Tana's allegations against you. And it's a fact that you are suppressing your audience's knowledge of these allegations by censoring your YouTube comment section. These things may not prove Tana's allegation, but you better believe that they contextualize them in a way that you need to address. And you still have every right to address this, even now. If you have a side of the story that we're missing, then tell it. If I have my facts wrong, say something. Nobody should ever be denied the right to tell the truth, no matter what. I'm sure we can all agree that everyone should have the right to speak their truth, but that's exactly why I couldn't just sit here and watch the whole world tell Tana that it doesn't apply to her.
Yeah.
Regardless of the truth of the situation, I'm just so disappointed either way. That is all. Goodbye, Cody.
Damn.
Add a playlist live or
Whew. Yeah. I mean, that was only 15 minutes, but he said everything that he needed to say. Like, that was very concise. That was very concise. He made his points clearly and communicated it very effectively. Made a lot of very good points. And it is one of those things where, look, it's one thing to want to be careful about outwardly accusing Cody, and that's what D'Angelo was maintaining. He's like, I'm not accusing you of a crime, but I'm addressing what Tana has said that was corroborated by Gabby Hanna and all this other, circumstantial evidence and other factors that attest to who you are, and you haven't said anything. And other commentary YouTubers haven't addressed this, even though they've addressed other big content creator allegations. And so like it's one thing to go, well, we can't say that he did this. Well, I don't think anyone is saying with 100% certainty that you can say that he did this. Like, that's why they're called allegations. But to dismiss it because it's Tana Mongeau. Mugu. It's because, I'm sorry, Mogo. To dismiss it because Mojo. Okay, I got it. Like Mojo Jojo. So to off the bat dismiss because it's Tana Mongeau is a horrible thing to do. It reinforces this idea of a perfect victim, that you can't be a victim unless you're a perfect victim. And Tana is not a perfect person and therefore not a perfect victim. And so therefore I can dismiss. Doesn't matter. Let me tell you, when I went in to get my eyebrows done and my lady was like, what's happening? Like pop culture, yada, yada, yada. There was another girl who was there who brought up the Brooke Schoenfield and Clinton Kane situation. And so she, the two of us were kind of filling the eyebrow lady in on that. And then Tana got brought up and the Cody Ko situation got brought up. I was like, oh, I'm actually going to be talking about this on stream tonight. And before my eyebrow lady knew what the situation was, she goes, oh, isn't Tana Mongeau, like, isn't she kind of an asshole? Hasn't she said and done some pretty terrible things? I was like, yes, but, and I said what the gist of what the situation is. And my eyebrow lady was able to do what a lot of these fans and a lot of these commenters have not been able to do, which is to understand that Tana, the person Tana, is like, it doesn't affect whether or not she is a victim. Like her being a bad person, a terrible person. I'm not saying these things. I'm saying that this is what people are arguing. What people think of Tana does not discredit her as a victim. The entire online content community has been poison pilled against Tana for so fucking long. And look, to be fair, I don't know Tana's whole history. I don't know, like some of you were mentioning family things. I don't know that much about her aside from instances where she has been obnoxious, where she has like said terrible things, where she's acted in a terrible way. Like I know of those instances. I don't think she's this demonic person. And I also understand that she has been in this world since she was a teenager and was growing up around people like Logan Paul, and in a world that's very toxic, and specifically in an industry where like obnoxious public behavior is encouraged because that's content and because like that's how Team 10 or whatever the fuck they were called, that was their business model, whatever. Okay, all that is there. But the main point is it's disgusting to It's disgusting to say either it doesn't matter because it's Tana, which means that, oh, you believe it, or you're inclined to believe it, or you don't disbelieve it, but you don't care because it's Tana. It's also disgusting to be like, well, it's Tana, so we just, don't listen to anything that she's saying. Just completely dismiss her that way. And then it's also disgusting to make any excuse around it. Where if you're like, oh, well, she consented to it. Okay. Well, she's not saying that he raped her. Well, whatever excuse you're coming up with, yikes. Yikes. Like D'Angelo said in the video, if this is what happened, that is a crime. Having sex with someone, as 25-year-old Cody Ko, having sex with someone who is 17 years old, that is a crime. So, it's a clear example of how when it's somebody that you like, when it's someone who you like as a friend or you like as a content creator, whatever, you can look the other way or you can make excuses. But I guarantee a lot of these same people were against Dr. Disrespect, or would be against or would be inclined to believe a victim who came forward against a content creator that they didn't like. And the other thing too, for a lot of people who try to do the yeah, well, maybe she was 18, or just like the 18-year-old thing in general. Okay, so the difference between 17 and 18, one is legal, one is not. Both, when you are a 25-year-old man, both are not right. Both are not moral. It is creepy as absolute hell, okay? Despite the girl being 18 years old. This is just a common thing that we see in discussions around age, where, yes, per the law, 17 is underage, 18 is not underage, but like aside from the legal definition, it is the same. Also, in this case, there's someone corroborating that Cody knew she was underage. Right. It doesn't look good. It does not look good. And of course, we still have to be careful. We have to refer to it as allegations. We can't, well, I mean, you guys can, but me as a content creator, me as someone who's speaking on this, I have to choose my words carefully, while you all understanding too, like, who I am as a person and how I cover these, how I cover these situations. Regardless, though, I think it's sad that she's been so harassed, and that the inclination from so many people is to not believe her or not give a shit because it's Tana Mongeau. Oh, I don't like this woman. Great. Then I don't have to care, or I can say she's a liar. It's as if, it's like what your politics are, okay? Let's say you're a Democrat, and a Democrat politician or a Democrat media person who you're a big fan of has allegations against them. You can't just dismiss that. You can't just assume, oh, this victim is lying because that's somebody on your side, because those are your politics. Because I know, and you know, if it were a conservative, if it were somebody with opposite politics, you wouldn't have that same dismissal. I think it's worse. These people think she deserved it. Yes. So there's people in the camp of Tana is a liar, Tana is drama, blah, blah, blah. So she's just lying. And then there's people in the camp of okay, this happened, but she consented to it. Like, clearly she consented to it. So it's not a big deal. Like, it's not, why is everyone saying that this is statutory rape? Why is everyone saying that this is bad? Blah, 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 blah. And then there's people who are saying she's a bitch and she deserved for this to happen to her. And I don't give a fuck. Did you see some of her tweets about Cody when she was 17? She idolized him. I didn't see the tweets, but that was mentioned in the video. And that's what we talk about when we talk about power dynamics and why in that situation, that was not true consent. 1, because she was 17 years old. 2, because she was a fan. Cody was older. He had more power than her. It's predatory even if they're in a place where 17 is legal, and they were not. It's fucking predatory, full stop. Yeah, and the testimony of Gabby Hanna saying that she had told him that Tana was 17. And he thanked her for telling him, which indicates that he knew exactly what he was doing. Okay, some of y'all clearly did not do the exercise before we started watching the video. I told you. I told you to do this. Okay, this chatter is saying you're making it seem like there was a power dynamic when there wasn't. That's simply not true. Okay, you need to understand power dynamics. When there is an age difference, like there was, that is a power dynamic. When there is a level of fame difference, which there was, that is a power dynamic. When you have a situation where someone is a fan and the other person is the celebrity that the person is the fan of, that is a power dynamic. Age gap, yes. Power dynamic, no. Okay, you're not understanding that age gap is part of a power dynamic. These are not separate. When a girl is 17 and a guy is 25, that is a power dynamic. That is related to age. That is part of what we call power dynamics. She has also said that she was a huge fan of his. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Tana was already a content creator by that point, already had a following. She knew of Cody because she was a fan of his. And so she said she was just really excited to be hanging out with him. That is a power dynamic. You have a responsibility when somebody is a fan of yours, you have a responsibility to make sure that you do not abuse that adoration. Okay? So for instance, what's her fuck? Toxic gossip train, okay? Colleen Ballinger. Her fans, she abused that power dynamic. She abused them being fans of hers by getting them to do things for her that crossed lines, by having them like attack her husband who she was divorcing, by having them like, you know, whatever, all the things that she had them do. Okay. That was her taking advantage of the fact that they were fans of hers. Being a fan of someone means you have less power. You have less power than them because of your personal feelings towards them. Because when you're a fan of someone, you put them on a pedestal. You're excited just to like get to be in their presence. You're more likely to agree to things that they want because they are on a pedestal, because you revere them, because you feel lucky that you get to be around that person that you know, that's a celebrity to you. I don't know why that's so hard to understand. Like, I think it's easy. Okay, I think if you just like put yourself in that situation. I think if you put yourself, just like imagine a hypothetical, all right? Someone that you are a huge fan of. And you finally get the opportunity to meet that person. Do you not think that your frame of mind, that you might feel and act differently to that person that you're such a fan of versus like it just being a regular person who does not have that, who does not hold that like power over you? And look, I get power dynamics can be difficult to understand because sometimes they're obvious. Like, let's say you're at work. Your boss obviously has power over you. You recognize that. That is explicit, obvious power. You can recognize that your boss has power, and so you're afraid to, you know, like piss them off. You treat them differently because they have power over you. In sexual instances, it's more difficult to identify those power dynamics because they're not as explicit, because it's not as like societally defined. I don't even think this chatter is listening. Y'all, look, whenever I'm trying to address a chatter and then make a bigger point, don't respond to that specific chatter because then they don't listen to me. I mean, they might not listen anyway. They probably won't listen anyway because it's very rare that people in Twitch chat who want to die on a hill will pay any attention to when I'm trying to correct them. But if the case is that they are trying to listen, then please don't dogpile. Please don't distract by coming at them. I need to get some more water. Hold on. Yeah, Warm Thoughts by Flume is playing, okay? So in sexual instances, having power over someone can influence how comfortable they feel saying no to things. And that's why it's not true consent when those power dynamics are at play. So examples of, I'll just repeat, examples of power dynamics, power imbalances, privilege. Oh, music is too loud. Okay, I'll turn it down. Privilege, position in society, level of ability. So an adult who is an able-bodied adult versus an adult who's disabled, age differences, sexual experiences, etc. So I'll give you a personal anecdote, okay? And I'm sure a lot of you, if you aren't understanding what I'm saying, think in your own life, or maybe you were on one side or the other. For a lot of you, it's probably that you were on the side of not having the power. When I was 17, I had sex with a coworker who was 28. That was wrong. At the time, I didn't know that it was wrong, even though I remember feeling weird about it. It wasn't until years later that I realized that was fucked up. Now, did he know I was 17? I can't remember. Honestly, it was 15 years ago. But looking back on that, I remember feeling that I wanted to please him, because this is a guy who was 28. He was almost 30. He was sexually experienced. I was not sexually experienced. It was pretty soon after when we started having sex that it was clear that I was not experienced at all. Okay. And I remember like feeling embarrassed, but not wanting him to feel bad. So much of it was catering to make sure that he was okay. Because this is a guy who, because of the age difference, because he was an older person, and because I was younger, and now I recognize that that is a power imbalance in age and sexual experience, that I just, acted the way that I did because of those things. So there's a personal example, okay? I also have been in many, many situations where, as a young actress in Hollywood, even though by this point I was over age, I was in my early 20s, but it doesn't matter because power imbalances still happen even if you're not under 18. But there were many situations where I would be meeting with, I would be in a situation where like a male who was twice my age, who was very powerful in the industry, who, would like give the impression that I can help your career type of thing, would basically solicit me, okay? And there are situations that I know for sure I recognize when that was happening, and I made sure it didn't happen. Like a dinner where, I thought we were going to talk about, me being your intern, or like, you know, you can teach me like the, you know, whatever, take me under your wing type of thing. And then realizing that it was just about sex, but that it was being positioned as, I can help you with your career if you do this for me. And them being fully aware of the position in society that they're in, of me being a young woman, of them being an older, powerful man with, you know, a high position, a lot of money, a lot of power. Yeah, and that happens. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. I mean, I can give you so many, and this is not me sharing these examples. I'm not trauma dumping on you guys. I just want to be very clear about that. Like, I'm good. I'm good. I've shared examples before of how predatory men have been to me in Hollywood, like they have been to plenty of young women and girls who come into this town. I just think it's important when we have these conversations for those who just like can't understand what we're talking about when we're talking about power dynamics. I'm like, let me give you examples, okay? And I guarantee there are examples in your own life that maybe you can't recognize because you don't have this language yet, or you don't have this understanding yet. And what happens with a lot of us is that we experience these things, and it's not until we get older, it's not until we learn why these situations were wrong, that we're able to look back. We're able to look back on past experiences through a different lens. And these are newer conversations. These are conversations that we're having more often because of movements like Me Too. And there's still a lot of people who can't grasp what real consent is, who can't understand power dynamics, who can't or won't, I guess. Not all power dynamics affect people in the same way. There's also a range of power imbalance that encompasses different areas of each person's life. Not all are nefarious. Some are good and useful. Yes. Like, yes. When I'm talking about power imbalances, like in Tana's situation and in the situations I'm describing, in sexual situations, those are bad. Some more examples for chatters would be teacher, student, cop, everyday person, prison guard, detainee, etc., etc. There will always going to be some sort of power dynamics issues when they are exploited. Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. Power dynamics and imbalances exist in every facet of society in all of our lives. You know, I am someone who in certain situations I'll have more power, but it's when it's being exploited, it's when you are using it, especially when we're talking about sexual situations, using it to influence the person who has less power, influence their actions and their choices. And having them do things that they don't necessarily want to be doing. So it's why it's always good to like check in and think, you know, if I like, would this person say yes if I didn't have power and authority over them? Making consent clear. Like, if there's a difference in power between you and your partner, you know, having open conversations about things. Like making sure that you are addressing your partner who has less power than you, like in the situation. So it's not something where it always results in something bad, that like it's always exploited. But in the situation of Tana and Cody, from the sounds of what Tana has said and what corroborating, you know, what corroborating people like Gabby Hanna have said, is that was the case. And also, she was 17, is what she said. It's to understand that dynamic and developing proper boundaries. How can a person know when it's okay to have a relationship with a power imbalance? Okay. How can a person know when it's okay to have a relationship with power imbalance? So I think the question is like, if you're in a relationship where there's a power imbalance, how do I go about not being exploited or taken advantage of by that power imbalance? So for instance, if you I don't know, like if you are 22 and you're dating someone who's 40, who has a lot more money than you, who is, you know, who like you're financially dependent on, and you also like there's the age difference there. You have to like have open, transparent communication with your partner. But it's also unfortunately something that is experience. Like hopefully you can identify it. Hopefully, like, this is why it's important for young people to learn these things earlier on in life. So it's not something like, I have these conversations with my mom, and my mom didn't understand these things until she was like in her 40s. Me, I didn't understand these things until I was in like my mid 20s. And the hope is with younger generations that you all understand what we're talking about in this conversation at an earlier age, so that you don't have to spend 40 years and then finally learn, right? So it's something where if you're in a position where there's a power imbalance, you recognize that, you know, oh, okay, I'm feeling inclined to do this thing that I am not actually comfortable doing, that I don't want to consent, that I don't really feel like I'm consenting to, but I feel pressured to do that because of, you know, because of X, Y, and Z factor. So being able to recognize that, and then being able to have that communication with your partner, okay? Like every situation is going to be different. Every situation is going to be different. And now we're talking about like consenting partners versus like, you know, situations where it's not people who are in a partnership. But yeah, and like I said, all of us are, you know, are on one side or another with many relationships in our lives. Maybe you've been on the I have the power in a relationship. Maybe you've been on the I don't have power in a relationship. You know, whether it's a friend relationship, like a platonic relationship, whether it's a work relationship, whether it's a sexual romantic relationship. We have all different kinds of relationships in our lives, and there's so many different dynamics and imbalances happening in all these different relationships. So it's also like recognizing if you do have power in a relationship, oh, I need to be aware of that. So like, let's say you hire someone to work for you, you now have, there's a power balance, right? Because you are their boss. So being aware and making sure that they're not pressured into situations because of that imbalance. My last relationship did not end well because of the power imbalance of her being able-bodied and myself being disabled. There was nothing inherently wrong. Nobody was even being a bad person, but because that imbalance never got addressed, it ended up putting myself in a very vulnerable position. Being aware and having strong boundaries is essential. Yes, exactly. It's not like in these situations we're talking about, it's not like a condemnation. It's not saying like if you're the person who has like XYZ instance of power in the relationship, it's not saying like you're a bad person like just for having that. It's recognizing though those dynamics and having boundaries, having open communication, etc. In Cody and Tana's case, the responsibility was on Cody to know he should not be taking advantage of a high school. It should be common sense. Right. Cody, who is, who's not the fan of Tana, but vice versa, where Tana had been a fan of him. Cody, who was older, Tana being not just younger, but also underage, like that responsibility is on him to not move forward with things. Like, I hope we understand that.